Happy Friday, everybody. It's Jim. It's Amadeus, and Amadeus, my friend. How about those Leafs? They extended Boston to a game 7, and I'll tell you, people over at TD Garden in Boston have got to be a little freaked out about playing the Leafs in a game 7.
Yeah, definitely. The pressure's on now for Boston. I mean, I personally didn't think the Leafs were going to get it done last night, but sure
Mhm.
enough, they lost the first two games at home, and they found a way to win that one. They've actually won the last two games without their best player, Austin Matthews. So
Mhm.
go figure that. But yeah, you got to be feeling like Boston's got a little sense of deja vu from last season here.
Yeah, and what in the pre-show we were talking about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, we talked about the curse of the President's Cup. And it seems to be in good shape these days, the curse at this point. As you said, they were up 3-1. Now they're staring at an elimination game.
Yeah, this is an interesting series to me, just because the way this game 7, I won't be betting on it myself. I haven't been
Mm-hmm.
betting much of the NHL playoffs anyway, just been
Mm-hmm.
really watching it. But yeah, this is it's a tough game to put your finger on, just because
Mm-hmm.
obviously the story with the Leafs is haven't made it out of the first round of the playoffs in
Mm-hmm.
years. Haven't beaten Boston specifically in a playoff series since 1959 or sometime in the 50s. I'm not sure the specific year, but it was definitely in the
Mm-hmm.
50s last time they won a playoff series against Boston. And so obviously, it's the monkey on their back. It's always been about the Leafs, but now you got to sense some of the pressure's got to be building up on Boston here. This is a Boston team that last year they fired their head coach specifically because of their playoff performance. It's not like this has been a bad Boston team. They consistently make the playoffs. So why fire their head coach last year? Because they weren't performing well in the playoffs. So they bring in this new guy, Jim Montgomery, and
Mm-hmm.
he goes last year. He sets all these regular season records for the Bruins. They're the best team in the
Mm-hmm.
NHL. But then they get into the first round of the playoffs. They take a 3-1 series lead, and they end up losing that series to the Florida Panthers. Well, now, flash forward 1 year later, same scenario here for the Bruins, where they had a 3-1
Right.
lead in this series. Now you're looking at game 7. Yeah, it's on home ice, but you just blew two opportunities to end the series. And the pressure has to be building up, especially when, Jim Montgomery, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the hot seat, because the guy they let go, they bring in this guy for playoff performance, and this is what we've seen: 2-3-1 series leads blown. And the guy you let go
Mm-hmm.
last year goes and wins the Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. So, like,
Right.
what does that say? I think there's a good chance whoever wins this game, the coach is getting canned. Because if you're the Leafs, you got to be looking at it like, we've had 5 years of the same thing with Sheldon Keefe. Can't get
Mm-hmm.
past the first round. And in my opinion, the players on this team, this is a good enough team with the Leafs to get past the first round. So,
Mm-hmm.
something's got to change there. If they lose this game, Keefe's got to go. And on the contrary, Jim Montgomery, it's only his second season, but he's got to be on the hot seat too if they lose this, because, 2 straight years with 3-1 series lead in the first round of the playoffs and going out, that does not bode well for, a Boston team that's an original six team. Everybody talks about the crap the Leafs always get, but the media is just as harsh on Boston there. So I say, pressure is building on both sides. This is not going to be a walk in the park for Boston just because they have their number.
I'll tell you that Boston, without doubt, I know a lot of people talk about New York, a lot of people talk about Philly, and those are both two tough towns to play in. But the media in Boston are, man, they are not forgiving. And I imagine that the amps are tilted up pretty high in Boston media today about what's happening at TD Garden, as you said, when those two teams get together. And as you said, both of them are original six teams. So, they have a history that goes back a very, very long way. So it's gonna be fascinating. Speaking of, we'll get to the other hockey in a second, but the Knicks and the Pacers. Now that's not they weren't the original six, but the um, the Pacers and the Knicks have a history in the playoffs, especially back in the day when there was Patrick Ewing with the Knicks, and you had Reggie Miller playing for the Pacers, and Riley coached them. It was that was one heck of a rivalry, even to the point where you had Spike there sitting courtside, getting John with Reggie. It was fun. It should be fun to see how this incarnation of the Knicks and the Pacers play each other in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a really fun series just because we're getting two very young, exciting teams to watch. It's not like both teams have stars, but they don't have a Jokic or a Doncic or something like that. They have growing stars. Like obviously Jalen Brunson is really growing into that star role for the Knicks, whereas Tyrese Halliburton is obviously the guy over in Indiana. But Pascal Siakam, they knew he was the guy in Toronto, and he's making a case for himself there in Indiana as well. They got their own little, duo tandem going. So definitely, I think this is going to be an exciting game. And it's going to be an interesting series just because I think the two styles of these teams are very different. The way the Knicks play, it's a little slower paced, more defensive under Tom Thibodeau, whereas the Indiana Pacers, obviously they've led the league in pace and scoring this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams match up on the court.
They play up and down basketball, which is fun. I mean, they play Reggie basketball. It's the kind of stuff he did when he was playing in Indiana. So it's going to be fun from that standpoint. We don't know who Boston is going to play. It'll be either Cleveland or Orlando. And we should know over the weekend how that works out. Over in hockey, who's the team to beat? Is there a team to beat?
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting right now because I just need to double check on the next round, but I believe we have in the East we have the Rangers playing the Carolina Hurricanes, right? In the next round. And see again, so this is where the divisional setup of the NHL is stupid because the Rangers, if we're going based off points, let's clump the Atlantic and the Metro division together. New York and Carolina are 1 and 2. That is 1 and 2 seed. I think Rangers were 114 and Carolina was 113. There wasn't the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins, the other division, weren't as high. So this is definitely it's stupid what we're getting. Basically, the two best Eastern Conference teams. Someone's going to knock each other out before the Eastern Conference Championship. So it's going to be an interesting. I think this might be the best series to watch in the East, maybe even in round 2 all together. It's going to be a very exciting series. Obviously, Florida's waiting for the winner of Leafs and Boston. But I would think maybe in the East, the winner of this Carolina Rangers series is going to be the team to beat.
And unlike the NBA, where the West teams are, better, there's depth there than the East. In hockey, I think it's the other way around. I think the teams on in this particular group of the Eastern teams might very well be deeper than the West squads that are still in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And you can look at the points, right? Like in the East, if you look at the top of the East, you had the Rangers 114, Carolina 113. You had, I think, Florida had 110 or something, that 109. And even those teams, there were so many teams with over 100. And then you look at the West, and you had teams in third place with like 99 points, 94. Even I think the number one team in the West was the Dallas Stars. I think finished with 113. They were 1 point behind the Rangers. But other than the Stars, like there's not a 110 plus point team over the West. So and the Stars, don't even get me started on that because they're technically the best team in the West, and yet what a way that series has gone. They lose the first 2 games at home, and then they win the 2 road games in Vegas, and now they've won 3 straight and have them on the brink of elimination. So that's a crazy series to watch tonight. Obviously the Vegas could be fighting for their life, but yeah, in the West, I don't quite know who the team to beat is. I totally agree with you. I think the East is the stronger division right now.
Yeah.
Stronger
All
conference.
right. And who do you like out west in that scrum in the NBA now as we move out there?
Yeah, that was it's another tough one. Obviously, we have the
Denver.
Timberwolves and
Yeah.
the Nuggets playing each other in the next round, and then the Thunder are just waiting for this Clippers Mavericks. But yeah, I mean, Denver has looked good. The Timberwolves have looked really good. I think the Thunder have looked great. I think it's going to be one of those three teams. Which one, I'm not really sure, but I don't think it's going to be Denver again.
You said early in this season that early in the playoff area that you really liked OKC, and there's a lot to like about the Thunder. They're flying under the radar.
I do like the Thunder. They're the number one seed in the Western Conference. I mean, this team has really come together. If you look at the way they've improved over the last 3 seasons, and there's another thing I kept calling the Magic the Thunder of this year, because if you look at what the Thunder did last year, they kind of just made the playoffs, and now obviously, one of the best teams in the NBA, and I wouldn't be surprised, if we see, the Magic finish in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference after seeing what they've done in these playoffs to give the Cavaliers some trouble. So definitely, yeah, I do like the Thunder. That's probably where I lean, but we'll see. I mean, the Timberwolves, going into the playoffs, the Timberwolves were 1-10 against the Suns in their last 11 games, and they swept the Suns in 4. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to know what you're going to get from this Timberwolves team.
That's those are the kind of things you look at and go, oh God, because playoffs are different than regular season. So the way it goes. All right. So yesterday we talked about the Kentucky Derby. Just for those of you who want to know, it's on tomorrow, starting at 2:30. Action will begin on NBC and Peacock. The post time is 3 minutes before the hour, 7 Eastern time. So you got a lot of good horse racing to watch, as well as no doubt a tremendous amount of packages on the horses, on the trainers, and on the jockeys. So keep a lookout tomorrow for the Kentucky Derby. And as I said before, if you want to watch the thing from beginning to end, it starts at 2:30 on NBC, streaming on Peacock. If you just want to tune in to watch the race, I would suggest about 6:50 tomorrow evening, 10 minutes before the hour of 7 on the East Coast. And that should get you set up so that you'll be ready to watch the fastest 2 minutes in sports. So that's tomorrow's TV. If you are in one of 15 cities, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Miami, the list goes on. You're probably going to tune in tonight to watch your baseball team. If you're Comcast cable, don't bother. You're not on. Okay. Comcast has shut down Bally Sports in 15 cities. And for right now, those of you who wish to see baseball in those towns are not going to see it on Comcast. So my suggestion would be take a look at YouTube TV, give it a try. You may want to change your cable to streaming from this standpoint, because I can assure you this is not going to get done anytime soon. Comcast has a pretty strong policy, specifically with those. They kept the Yankees when Yes Network came on. They kept the Yankees off of TV in New York for 2 years. They did the same thing in Los Angeles. As a matter of fact, Comcast doesn't have a deal with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have been on the Dodger Vision. This is the 4th year. So if you think they're going to, fold like a cheap suit, that's not going to happen. So if you're in one of those 15 cities where you're not getting it, I would strongly suggest, if you want your regional sports, take a look at the others, because right now that's not going to happen. Something happened today, Amedeus, which I think what's your opinion on? Um, a number of bowls have decided. Remember that there have been opt-outs, right? A team will get picked to play in a bowl game. We know this from FSU last year when they got played Georgia, and so now you've got a number of the bowl games saying that they're going to put together a revenue source so that the players on each team who come to the bowl will actually get paid for that game. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we had coaches complaining about how, specifically, what was it,
Mm-hmm.
Kirby Smart,
Kirby Smart,
about
yeah.
how we need to make these, we need to do something for these bowl games. You can't just have a walkover. So this is definitely something to entice the players to play. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't
I
hate
don't.
it.
Well, I mean, if you got name, image, and likeness, right, and you've got a sponsor for the bowl, and you sit there and go, okay, well, what we don't want is what happened in the Orange Bowl last year. It doesn't. I mean, it makes some sense.
Yeah, no, 100%.
They're not going to pay a lot of money, but it's definitely worth looking into. I would think, no question about that. The uh, here, Odell Beckham Jr. To join the Dolphins. 1 year, and he has the ability to make up to $8.25 million. Why? I mean, the receivers they have on that team, I'm really curious as to why you would want to bring Odell Beckham Jr.
I think he's just turning into Deshaun Jackson. We mentioned something like this the other day, right? He's like that old wide receiver that can still play, but he's not going to get a ton of touches. So put him on a team with a ton of talented wide receivers where, defense has to cover the other guys first. Then, OBJ is going to get the 80-yard pass every now and then, right? He's gonna be wide open on that deep route at some point in the game. So, I mean, hey, if they can find a way to make it work, I don't hate the move, right? I just look at it like, the rich keep getting richer because that's already a great wide receiver room, and now you're adding, another great veteran to it.
Well, yeah, and you're also putting together a very impressive 4x100 relay team. So you got that going for you. I got a text from a friend of mine, and he's into fantasy sports, and he said that this season that his first round draft pick in fantasy is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. because he thinks that that obviously that they're going to figure out ways to get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. So I don't, again, like you just said, I don't hate the idea, but I'm not a fantasy football guy to begin with. But anyway,
Okay.
but he is.
I can definitely give some advice there. Never draft a wide receiver in the first round. You should always draft your running backs first because there's only a handful of solid running backs in the league, and if you don't get at least one good one early in the draft, you're going to be fighting for scraps the rest of the season.
Me and the first round pick. Why wouldn't you take Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, right. Like that's what I mean. You take the best running back on, or even somebody if it's if it's a PPR league, pick someone that is going to get a ton of carries and a ton of catching, like how Alvin Kamara used to be. That was he used to be a fantasy king just because he was the entire offense, the running game and the passing game. So yeah, I always say draft a running back first, but also he's working under a big assumption that the Cardinals are going to be somewhat competent. I don't know if you're banking on a lot. He still has to get the ball from the quarterback.
Not necessarily is an interesting way to go. Okay. Is there, Saban has now retired, okay, in college football. Is Kirby Smart the top coach in college football now? Question.
Well, he's getting paid like it, and I'd have to agree. I mean, he did win. Obviously, they didn't go last year, but he did win back-to-back championships. They've been one of the more dominant teams in the country over the last few years. So, I mean, you find me a better head coach out there for college football right now. I don't think there is one.
No, and Kirby had a legitimate argument that they should have been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, Mike Riley,
only if Alabama had lost to Auburn in that game,
and they should have. They should have lost before that to Ole Miss. But anyway, Mike Riley has been appointed to the college football selection committee. So they get an old coach ready to go. And the Steelers have said, and we're talking about the players in the locker room, as the old saying goes, have said that by adding Wilson and Fields to the quarterback room, they definitely have upgrade at quarterback. Well, that's about as Captain Obvious as you can get. Yes, Wilson and Fields, we're definitely making the Steelers look a whole lot better than what they did in the past. So I don't think anybody's going to argue at that point. What's going on this weekend in soccer? I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on in the Champions League. We talked about the fact that there's only three weeks for some and 4 weeks for others left in the season.
Yeah, definitely. We're coming down to the wire here. It's a pretty big Premier League card tomorrow. I mean, the games themselves aren't exciting. Arsenal plays Bournemouth in the morning, bright and early, at 7:30. That's going to be an interesting match. Obviously, Arsenal has to win every match and then hope Man City, draws or loses somewhere to win the title. And Bournemouth is no walkover. This is a team that's on the rise. I think they have a chance. The way Brighton was last year, I think Bournemouth is the new Brighton. They're going to be a very good team as long as they retain all that young talent they have. So that's going to be obviously the early morning match. But yeah, some of these matches they're kind of watered down in my opinion. Brentford Fulham could be a good match, but they neither team really has anything to play for. I mean, Burnley and Newcastle's kind of good. Newcastle's fighting for European spots, where Burnley is fighting to get out of relegation. So that one should be an exciting match, I would think. Sheffield and Nottingham's going to be a little exciting just because Sheffield's at home. They've officially been relegated to the first Premier League team to get relegated this season, but Nottingham Forest is only 1 point above the relegation zone. They need to win this game, and if Sheffield wants to play any kind of spoiler, I mean, they could really, ruin Nottingham Forest's chances of staying up this year with a win in that match. So that might be one to watch. Those are all at 10 a.m., those three. And then the afternoon match is City and Wolverhampton tomorrow. So nothing too great there, really. Sunday, we have Brighton and Aston Villa. That'll be a good one. Chelsea and West Ham will also be a good one. Those two are at 9. And then we cap the afternoon off with a Liverpool-Tottenham match, which would have had title implications, 2 weeks ago if Liverpool hadn't lost to Everton and then dropped points again to West Ham. So they're pretty much out. They still need to win if they want to have any chance. But Tottenham, they need to win too. They've been in awful form lately, and they're fighting to keep their 5th spot. So
there you go. One thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Pacers, in the Pacers game last night, I don't know if you saw it, but Pat Beverly threw a ball at a fan. He did it twice. I'm pretty sure that not only is Milwaukee out of it, but that he's undoubtedly going to get fined some serious money for that.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that, but I mean, he's always had a bit of a temper issue. So no surprise there that he did that, but yeah, definitely something should be done about it for sure. Can't
Well,
just be throwing balls at fans.
he didn't go run our test and go up in the stands to get a fan. But yeah, throwing basketballs at the fans are not a good thing. And look, I I feel for the players because I mean, just because you pay a lot of money to sit close to the the court doesn't mean you should degrade people. But the fan pays their money. He didn't get ejected for any reason, so gotta watch your temper there, Pat. Otherwise, that wallet's going to be a whole lot lighter. Which, believe me, Adam Silver's not at all, adverse to using you as an ATM machine. So we'll see how that works out. And let's see what else is going on over the weekend. We got golf at the Byron Nelson. Now, the Byron Nelson is one of those. It's kind of like Arnold Palmer and those kind of events, right? You go because of what the person did for the sport. I'm talking about players playing. Players will play in the Byron Nelson. They'll play at Bay Hill, in what used to be Arnold Palmer's tournament. They'll play at Jack's tournament in Columbus, Ohio, the Memorial, and those are things that they understand. I think golf more than maybe any sport understands the tradition of the people who played before them. And so respect is paid by going and playing in the tournament. I mean, obviously Byron's been gone as well as Palmer for years, but it's the fact that these were people who paved the way for the kind of money these guys are getting. So that the Byron Nelson tournament down in Texas is underway, and it usually is always some good golf and some good golfers. So certainly worth your time if you're golfing this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good watch.
Yeah. All right. We talked about the Knicks, and what about the Sixers? Where do they go from here?
Yeah, you gotta wonder about the Sixers. Obviously, it hasn't panned out with Joel Embiid. I hear a lot of talk about how Tyrese Maxey is the real face of that team and a potential face of the NBA. So we'll see what does. Obviously, they just hired a new coach in Nick Nurse, so didn't pan out this year. I hear they're thinking about throwing a lot of money at Paul George as well this off season. So the Sixers and the Magic, I believe it was, are ready to max George out if he's gonna leave LA. So it's definitely an interesting situation in Philadelphia. I think Joel Embiid has lost a lot of the the good graces of the league too. He's been a very dirty player these last few seasons, obviously highlighted by what he did to Mitchell Robinson in this past series, but he's been doing things like that all year. And Kevin Durant made a comment earlier this season that I think was shaded towards Embiid a bit when they asked him, how are you able, to stay healthy this year when you've dealt with so many injuries the last few years? And Kevin Durant flat out said, I know which players flop and try to injure guys on purpose, and I've been avoiding those kinds of players. Obviously, they don't see the Sixers often, but I could see that being a thin-veiled shot at Embiid. He does that a lot where he flops, and then when he's on the ground and doesn't get the call, he tries to tear a guy down. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Sixers team. I think Embiid's becoming a problem in Philadelphia.
It could be. And, who would have thunk that, right? Recently, it's not been, he's not been the problem child. Yeah, exactly.
He's always injured, too. That's the other thing, right?
True.
Like you can't stay on the court.
You can't win if you're watching from the bench. So there's that problem. Breaking news, Los Angeles Lakers are firing head coach Devin Hammond after 2 seasons. So there you go. LeBron gets another coach fired. There's
not too much of a shock there.
No. I'll tell you what. You could put Devin Hammond in a lineup with 5 other guys, and the average basketball fan couldn't pick him out.
Yeah, I saw Dwight Howard make a comment about how they should have never broke up that 2019 team. They would have won 3 straight championships. I don't know about that. I mean, they won in the bubble, so I think you need to calm down, Dwight Howard. There's a reason you're playing over in what is it, Taiwan? I think he's in the Taiwan league.
Should have just come back and be an analyst for somebody. I don't know that you can coach the Lakers. I don't know that you can coach any team in Bronzo. No. I mean, it's just he's only got 2 guys he listens to, and even that is straining it. I mean, there are times when he walks into the huddle and just basically whatever the clipboard as the coach is drawing the play up, just said knock the clipboard down and say just give it to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's coaching the team?
Here's another element for you, right? Let's say someone brings in LeBron, or maybe it's the Lakers still, right? But let's say LeBron and Bronny now we're throwing into the thing. Well, what if the coach is trying to tell Bronny what he needs to do and improve, and then LeBron's telling him something different now? So I'm just everybody's like, oh, Bronny's no good. Well, it's not just that. How is the dynamic going to work where Bronny's going to feel like he's got 2 coaches? He's got head coach and he's got dad coach that he's got to listen to, and which one do I listen to more is the real question.
Well, given history, I would listen to dad, because the head coach at I mean, there's no question that one of the reasons in my mind that Devin Ham got bounced is that they're considering, I mean, LeBron is considering deciding what he wants to do, right? What if, and this happened to Bill Russell toward the end of his career, what happened if they make LeBron the head coach and player? There's nothing says in the rules you can't do that. And as a matter of fact, Boston won 2 championships with Bill Russell, who was at the time the head coach and also played.
I mean,
if you're a professional basketball player, would you want to play on a team that not only had LeBron as a player, but had LeBron as the coach and player?
Well, that's the thing, right? There's guys that can't play with LeBron on the same
That's
team.
Right.
He's already too much as a player. So what? Now you have to list that. Now this guy's the coach too. And he's already asking himself, is it me? Why does nobody want to play with me? Well, if you make yourself the head coach, everybody's, never mind people coming to play with you. Everybody on the current team is going to leave.
Yeah, they're going to ask for trades. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that why else? I mean, they didn't meet expectations, but the Lakers they just weren't a good team. They haven't been a good team for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think I like it's so.
They've been average.
I think it's LeBron, right? They think the media out there and all that. They think because they're LeBron, they're automatically a good team, but they're not. They're not a good team.
Well, how many teams, if you go back, and let's talk about general sports, doesn't matter. Mike Trout for how many years has Mike Trout been one of the best baseball players in the Angels? How many years did Miller play fantastic basketball for the Pacers? How many championships does he have? The same amount as Charles Barkley. Good players don't necessarily mean you can have a good team.
Yeah, and good players don't necessarily mean you know how to coach a team.
And 100%.
I'll give you a great example. Look at Patrick Ewing and what he did for years at Georgetown.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, we're not going to deny the fact that Ewing was a great player.
100%.
But he was terrible as a coach. Georgetown was awful. And look, you can say what you want, but they brought in Ed Cooley this year, a proven winner at Providence. And in that conference, Georgetown wasn't great, but they won a conference game, something they never did under Ewing the last few years. So improvement was shown, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, look at from a standpoint of baseball, right? We were just talking about. Look at how many former Major League Baseball players who were great baseball players make horrible managers.
Yeah,
And,
same, and I think the same goes for every sport too.
yeah, and there's been some Larry Bird was a better general manager than he was a head coach, and that was actually the same for Pat Riley. I'm not sorry, not Pat Riley. Jerry West. Jerry was a tremendous executive and picker of talent, but he was a terrible head coach.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the funny thing, right? Like I would argue, like you might be the greatest player on the planet, but doesn't mean you can coach. And maybe if you're not as good as the sport, maybe
mhm,
coaching is the thing for you, right? It's funny
right.
because some of these guys who they were good, but they weren't they weren't great. They weren't the stars on their
Mhm.
team, but they understand the game and they know how to coach. And they didn't have that physical ability to go and be the guy they wanted to be, but they can start to shape these younger minds, and we see it all the time for sure.
Well, look at to your point on that. Look at Aaron Boone. All right, Aaron was an average baseball player, but he was he's been a very good manager. The guy that he replaced, Joe Torre. Joe Torre was a good. He's a decent baseball player. For two different teams, and but he came on to be a manager. And the first time around, he was not a good manager. He managed the Mets. That didn't work so well. He went to become a broadcaster for the Angels, and then in an interview with George Steinbrenner, Steinbrenner liked him, hired him, brought him back, and Torrey became legendary. So it doesn't always work. I'll say this: I was impressed with how Wayne Rooney transitioned from a player to a coach. I did think that was, and he did it by saying, you know what, I do know what it's like to be a player, and I think I know how to put people in their positions. He basically leaned on his assistant coaches to help him, and that's where you sometimes don't get that right. Is you'll hire assistants, they will kind of like feel in some way intimidated into speaking to someone who is a player or was a player of the ilk of Rooney. But that's the same reason Michael Jordan never made a good general manager, or for that matter, that much of an owner.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree. I mean, Wayne Rooney, you saw the results when he was at Darby
Mhm.
County. You saw the results when he came to DC, even though it was a short time there. So definitely he puts the result. And I can give you another example. Vincent Company.
Yeah.
He's coaching Burnley right now, and he's kind of
Mhm.
doing the opposite. Like, look, he was great in the championship. He was a phenomenal defender when he played for Man
Mhm.
City, but like he just I understand you played for City, you played so many years in the Premier League, you understand how it goes, but he just doesn't have that team ready for Premier League soccer, and they're
Mhm.
they're they're gonna go down most likely this year, I think. But maybe he saves them in these last few years. But I think if Burnley finds a way to stay up from relegation this year, they got to consider getting rid of Company because he's just he's not made for the job. As great of a player and
Mhm.
defender was, and he coached well at the lower levels. He can't coach well at the the biggest league in the country.
And that, my friends, is where you fall into trouble when you can't perform on the biggest stage. It's always difficult. All right, my friend. It looks like it's time to get on out of here, but we cannot go without first checking with you. And I can't stress this enough. You've got the Amadeus picks in the show box below. That just doesn't mean you should be here and when you're watching the show or even when you're watching it on replay. You need to check this stuff out every day and a couple times a day. So by all means, do that. And Amadeus, it's your time for a shameless plug and go for it.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. started May off with 2 straight winning days, another 4-3 winning days. So I'm 11-4 to start the month. And the last 4 days alone on the pitch, I'm on an 18-5 run. So definitely, super hot. I got some action at 3 o'clock and 15 minutes in the Premier League and Ligue 1 that you can go get. So make sure you check that out. And I got my my Western Conference first round game of the year for the NBA tonight. I'm 2-0 in May in the NBA. I've won my each of my plays the last 2 days. So on a bit of a roll now, and we're looking to keep that going tonight. So make sure you check that out.
There you go. And go back early and go back often, because I'm sure you'll be posting stuff all weekend long. Because
yes, I will also have a massive slate, probably, in the next 2 hours. I'll have 10 plays up for tomorrow morning on the pitch in Europe. So
one other quick plug, and you mentioned it yesterday. When you go to see Amedeus at Big Al, talk a little bit about the fact that Big Al, because tomorrow's the Kentucky Derby, by all means, you're going to want to go to Big Al and get some info on the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, go to bigal.com. You get my premium picks there. But obviously, Big Al McMorty himself, he's a handicapper on the site. He's got a little article you don't have to pay for. It's free stuff. It's similar to when I do my future articles on some of these soccer leagues. So definitely go check out his article on the Kentucky Derby tomorrow. Like I said, he's got 2 pretenders, 2 contenders, and 3 long shots for you to play. And if you really want to know which horse he loves the most, he's also got a premium pick that you can buy on the Kentucky Derby. And like I said, I don't know many handicappers that give out a horse, but he's very good in the Kentucky Derby. He's cashed some tickets last year and the year before, so make sure you check that out.
And don't forget, while you're over there, take a look at our buddy Rod Cape if you're a race car fan, because he is the king of NASCAR. So plenty of reasons.
Yeah, you can find him at Pick Advisor, the Insiders Room. He's not on BigAl.com, but you can find him at the other 2 for your auto racing needs. Definitely.
Thanks for not putting me in trouble with Big Al. I don't be being chased around for not getting it right, but. So anyway, there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on this weekend. Have fun, everybody. We'll be back on Monday, and by all means, check out Amedeus' stuff, because it's gonna be fun. And there's a lot of soccer tomorrow, and it'll be fun to check it out. So all right, okay, everybody. Until Monday, for Amedeus, I'm Jim. Be well. Take care. Bye.